So, hello and good evening, everyone. My name's Karina, and I will be your host for the alumni discussion panel here. We've got some great speakers. And just as a reminder, this event is being recorded for later playback and will be shared on the NEM YouTube account. Here's the agenda for this evening. It's going to be running for approximately an hour. We're hoping to have everything wrapped up for 7 o'clock, although if it runs over by a couple of minutes, I think we'd be okay with that as well. First off, we would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat nations, and thank these nations for their care and stewardship over this lands. And while this is specific to the Kingston, Ontario region, I recognize we have participants from across Canada, and we'd like to extend our thanks and acknowledgement to the peoples of their communities as well. Zoom, I'm sure we're all slightly familiar with Zoom etiquette now, but just in case, if you are not speaking, please mute your mic, just so it's not going to cause distractions for those who are speaking. We have a technical manager, Devin. He'll be monitoring chat, so anytime you have a question, feel free to pop it in chat, and Devin will relay it on to the speakers at an appropriate time. If you are wanting to actually speak to our presenters, we have an opportunity for verbal questions during the end question and answer period. And if you're shy, you can always put your questions in chat at that time as well. So first up, we'll do the introductions. As I said, my name is Karina and I will be your presenter. Devin is the technical manager monitoring chat for questions. And then hello. We've got 5 wonderful speakers from various programs of engineering technician persuasions from St. Lawrence College. First up, we've got Leanna Grice.
Hey everyone, my name is Leanna Grice. I graduated from the Civil Engineering Technology program in 2018. I currently work at Associated Engineering in Whitehorse, Yukon.
Awesome, thank you so much, Leanna. We also have Callie.
Hi everyone, I'm Callie Barrett, and I also took the Civil Engineering Technology program at St. Lawrence College, and I graduated in 2018, and I'm working at the Ministry of Transportation in the Kingston area.
Great, thank you so much. Mike?
Hello, my name is Mike Nod. I graduated from the Wind Turbine Technician program at St. Lawrence College, and I'm currently working for Enercon, a wind turbine manufacturer.
So thank you so much for being here. Kyle?
Hi, my name is Kyle Rouse. I graduated from the Energy Systems Engineering Technology program in 2018. And as of right now, I actually just recently started a new job with the County of Simcoe as their Sustainable Operations Program Analyst.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And finally, Scott.
Hello, my name is Scott Magnuson. I graduated the Instrumentation and Control Engineering program at St. Lawrence College in 2019, and I work for Jacobs Engineering in Ottawa, and we're design consulting.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. We're going to get started with the questions. After each question's asked, everybody will answer in a round robin style in that same order that they've just gone. Any questions you have, feel free to put into chat, and Devin will relay it either at the end of each section or during the question and answer period, however time is allowed. So first up, how long after graduation did you find your first job in the field, and did you have to relocate for it? Leanna?
Thanks. So my story is a little bit different by choice. So I graduated in 2018 in the spring, and then my husband and I moved to Whitehorse, Yukon by our own choice. So we took the summer off to travel, and then arrived in Whitehorse in the end of August, and then I started my job about a month later. And I didn't move to the Yukon with a job already. I found one once I got here, and it just worked out really well that associated was in need of someone with my skills, and I was here at the right time. So I didn't have to relocate, but I chose to because I had lived in Kingston for my whole life, and my husband and I are both ready for a change and trying to find a better balance of work and life, and the lifestyle in the Yukon was appealing to us. So we did relocate, but not because we had to.
Fair enough. That's very interesting, and I'm glad you ended up at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, thanks.
Callie, your thoughts?
So I was a successful candidate for a student position at the County of Lennox and Addington. So I actually got to get work in my field like after my first year at civil engineering technology. So I was an assistant to the civil technologist there. So really I was able to work right away. Really it was pretty awesome that way. In my last semester at St. Lawrence College, we actually did a 1-month placement. So mine was at Jewel Engineering, and I worked with their team to generate different designs and do field reviews and evaluations. I was actually offered a job through my placement, which was amazing. But at the same time, I was interviewing for a job called the transportation technician at MTO, which is sort of a training role that lets you feel out all of their different departments. So I decided to accept the transportation technician role at MTO, and I really didn't have to wait long. I just started right away after school, and I didn't have to relocate for anything.
That's amazing to hear. Thank you so much. Mike?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I was able to get the job right after graduation. So as soon as I was done school, I was able to start right into the field. We are actually introduced to the company that I work for, Enercon, when they came to do a presentation, just introducing their turbines and kind of their business model. Through there, I was able to meet some contacts and obtain an interview, and then I was hired shortly after that. As far as relocation goes, I did have to relocate. A lot of wind turbine technician jobs require relocation because these wind turbines are obviously in remote locations. So I relocated to Kincardine, Ontario, which is just on the shores of Lake Huron. Pretty picturesque when you're at the top of those turbines. Yeah.
Sounds like being in Kincardine was not a bad place to move to.
Yeah.
Kyle?
So I got a job right after graduating with my placement. So there was actually, we were a class of 6 who graduated. 3 of us all went and worked for a company called Light & Co. We did lighting assessments, lighting audits, and worked with the Save on Energy program to get clients rebates by converting to LED efficient lighting. I was placed right in Kingston for a few months. One thing I can say that was really great about the job is they were really open to where you worked as long as you could make sales. That being said, I was offered the position to move up to the territory manager of Hamilton. I was born and raised in Hamilton, so I just moved back home and I started working that location for a while. But certainly I didn't have to relocate. It was an option that I chose to do, and it ended up working out pretty well. And as I was saying, I did recently move into a new position with the County of Simcoe. Right now we're working remotely, so there was no need to move right away. But nonetheless, I did move to Newmarket recently because once we do get back into the full swing of things, I will be reporting to their head office in Midhurst.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Scott?
So I was lucky enough that I accepted a job offer before I graduated, and I was able to basically start immediately after I graduated. I had the help of the school there. They helped me train with some interview preparedness. So I accepted a job in Ottawa. I was born and raised in Kingston, and that's where St. Lawrence is, where I went to school was. So I was kind of just wanting to get away, move to a bigger city, and I had a choice between Toronto and Ottawa. So I decided to move to Ottawa. I had some family there. So enjoyed it ever since. I didn't have to, but I chose to. So yeah, I love it here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great that everybody either chose to relocate or knew they were going to at the beginning in the case of Mike. For your job, either your current or any of your previous roles, what do you enjoy most and least? Leanna?
Great. Yeah, I thought that was a tricky question to ask, and actually made me think a little bit about yeah, what's going on in my job. So like I said, I work for Associated Engineering, which is a engineering consulting company with an office in Whitehorse. We also have offices kind of spread all over Western Canada and a couple in Ontario. And our office here is pretty small. So there's 8 of us that work here full time, mostly engineers, and then 2 technologists, including myself. So I'd say one of the things that I like the most about my job in this role is that we do a pretty wide variety of work, because you kind of never really know what's going to come in the door, especially being in a small territory that is like small population wise, really large in terms of area, and has kind of a variety of needs, and the government tends to rely on our company quite a lot to provide advice and services. So we get involved with a lot of different projects. So I've been working on things that probably wouldn't be considered normal for a civil engineering technologist to work on. I mean, I do kind of the typical stuff like municipal infrastructure design and redevelopment, kind of the meat and potatoes of civil engineering. But then like this winter, for example, I've been working on designing a couple of lift stations for small communities, and I've done some asset management stuff. I've worked on, I did a water and sewer assessment for some housing for a First Nation. So kind of just lots of different things that I think that if I worked in a larger office, particularly in a larger city or a larger company, I wouldn't have those opportunities. So I definitely enjoy that about working for a small like employee-owned company versus a larger engineering consultant. But I mean, I guess along with that, there are some things that I maybe don't like as much or wish I could adjust. And that kind of happens seasonally for us. I mean, I elected to move to Whitehorse, Yukon, where it is winter for a very long time. So we've had like at least 12 inches of snow on the ground since the beginning of November. And I mean, we're gonna be into winter for a while yet here. So the winters can be long. And I mean, in the wintertime, we mostly do design work and prep for a crazy busy construction season. So I find sometimes I spend a lot of time at my desk throughout the winter. So kind of get a little bit cabin fever, especially, I mean, I do live in a cabin as well. So cabin fever is real in life and work here in the Yukon sometimes. And then another thing that I've kind of maybe bumped against throughout my career since graduating, so for the past like 2 years, being one of only 2 engineering technologists in an office full of engineers, is sometimes I do a little more advocating for myself and my role than I thought I would end up doing, partially because I have ambitious career goals. But I think I spend a fair bit of time like advocating for my skills and qualifications, when I guess sometimes it's possible that some people who haven't worked with technologists before might just assume that my skills might be only in drafting and CAD work, whereas I know that I can do other things. So that's something that I kind of bump against sometimes, but usually it's not really a source of conflict. It's more or less just a moment to provide some discussion and education and advocate for myself, and it works out in the end. It's just something that you kind of come into in your career at times. But other than that, I enjoy my job, and especially by the end of winter, everyone's itching for construction season, and then by the end of the summer, everyone's like, oh my gosh, can't wait for winter to just sit at a desk for a while. So by the time you get sick of one thing, there's time to move on to the next.
Sounds like you have a perfect job for yourself.
Sometimes, I mean, there are some weeks that it's not perfect, but overall, it's good.
True. Well, I'm glad the positives outweigh the negatives. Thank you very much, Leanna. Callie?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough that at MTO, it seems like everybody is retiring. Like the demographic there is crazy. Like it's starting to just be like this older generation retiring, and now there's just us youngsters that are able to just kind of get in and move up the chain. So I've changed jobs about 3 times since I started at MTO. And with each one came a pay increase. So that was pretty awesome for me. I felt really great about that. My current role right now is as a technical services officer. So essentially, like I design, manage, and administer my own contracts for the minor capital works. Generally speaking, I deal with projects that are valued around 2 million and less. So not our really large rehabilitations, but like route and seal and paving and structural patch repairs, joint seals, that kind of thing. So it's any of the roads and bridges infrastructure that MTO owns and stuff that I work with. And really, like my job right now, I get to sign and administer contract. So I'm essentially project manager and a contract administrator. So I get to see the full thing through. So there's not really this disconnect of like handing a project off to the administration team. Like I know exactly what's going on with my projects. So you have to implement different sets, and I'd say a lot of the project management requires me to be at a desk, and then a lot of the contract administration requires me to be in the field. So I have a really good balance of like being in the office and getting out. I'm not just stuck in a cubicle all the time. And like for someone who wants a good balance, like I highly recommend a job like this, and I'm quite happy with it. I mean, really, when I had to think about the downfall of it, is like it can be extremely high stress. And especially during construction season, there can be like a lot going on and a lot to respond to, because I do juggle about like 10 different projects kind of simultaneously throughout the summer. So that can be challenging. But then what is probably my least favorite part is to take vacation in the summer. So when it's nicest out and I want to enjoy summer, it's tough to get away because you can come back to a whole pile of stuff to deal with. But other than that, no, I'm enjoying it. It's been a pretty steep learning curve for me.
I'm glad you're enjoying it and are still constantly learning new things. It keeps you from getting bored, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you. So I work in the service sector of the wind turbine section. So I'm responsible for maintaining and servicing the wind turbines. There's lots of different roles that you can have as a wind turbine technician or a graduate from this program, but I chose to go into the service side. What I like most about it is how variable my tasks can be. I never really know what I'm going to be doing the day that I go into work. So I really enjoy that because these turbines can fault for a multitude of different reasons. I can be doing retrofits, which is changing the turbine to run a little bit better or more efficiently. So having that assortment of tasks keeps me on my toes. I'm constantly learning new things. I mean, I've been at the job for 2 years now, and I'm still learning. I still feel fresh. So I really enjoy that aspect of things. Another thing that's really great, kind of just a little side note, is I really enjoy the views. So when you get to the top of these turbines, the ones that I am most responsible for are about 80 meters high. So I can stick my head right out of the nacelle, which is the little top part that the blades are attached to. So I can stick my head right out of that, and I get to take pictures and just enjoy the weather in the summer and the fall especially. So those things are kind of a side note that are really bonuses to working as a wind turbine technician. Also, too, I've been able to earn an apprenticeship as an industrial electrician, which is a great aspect to it. It's an opportunity to earn more and learn more. So for those reasons, I think I really enjoy being a wind turbine technician. Also, some of the tools that I get to use are really cool and super big, like the biggest bolts you've ever seen in your life. So some of the bolts that we use are as thick and as long as your arm. And seeing how the machine that needs to tighten those things down is quite interesting. As far as the least thing that I enjoy about it is I mentioned that I'm in the service sector. So service can be slow. These turbines, they don't necessarily fail all the time, and they only have 2 regular scheduled maintenances every year. So that being said, I do have a lot of downtime. I guess it can be enjoyable for some, but I'm the type of guy that really likes to go, go, go. So that being said, I often find myself itching for the next job, and it can kind of get me in trouble because I look for problems when there aren't some sometimes. But that'd probably be my least favorite aspect of it. I could navigate that by getting into things like the erection of the turbines and commissioning of a turbine, where it's the same thing as a construction site. It's go, 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 and time is of the essence. But I elected to be in service because you're more stable and in one single location, and that was important to me. So yeah, those are the things that I like and dislike about being a wind turbine technician.
Thank you for sharing. That brought up a couple of points I hadn't considered. Kyle?
Yeah, thank you. So things I enjoy the most. There's a lot of things I enjoy at my work. I keep in mind I've only been here for 8 weeks, so I'm still adjusting to the role. It's what I do like about it is there's definitely plenty of work for me to do. Like Michael was saying, I'm also very much of I just want to go, I want to get things done. There is an endless stack of things to do. It never ends. If anything, it's sometimes too crazy, but it's good at the same time because the clock just flies by. A part I enjoy about the job is I'm working now in the public sector opposed to the private sector. So there is a little more of a standard of how you address people, how you talk to people, but I find it to be kind of a little more formal, and I kind of the conversations are engaging, and it gives you a good opportunity to talk to people who are above you or on the same plane as you, and everyone is willing to share their lessons of what they do within the company, what their role is, and how we can kind of merge our roles together to solve the task at hand. Yeah, like I said, I have a ton of projects on my desk right now. And one thing I do like about the job is I don't like when a task gets stagnant. They might at 9:30 tell me to focus on doing a project for National Resource Canada. And then at 10:30, they're like, okay, we got to get some funding off for rooftop solar that we're working on. So it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. I'm always doing something new. I'm always learning something new. And it's brought a lot of good opportunity for me. Like Callie was saying, and I think she said she had moved up a couple times within the company. And it's a kind of an aging population within her workforce. It's very similar to mine. 7 weeks in, I got a promotion. So I'm now my own supervisor. And that's come with a whole new task of responsibility and a salary increase, which is always nice. And it gives me the opportunity to kind of put projects in the direction that I think they should be going. So now instead of just being the analyst and saying, okay, these are the numbers, this is where they come from, this is where the project's going, I can now kind of take the steering wheel and say, this is what we should focus on. This is going to be, our no cost to low cost efficiency upgrades that we can do. And it's on a county-wide basis. We are the building I work for is the flagship of the entire county of Simcoe. So I'm responsible for, I think, 60 or 70 different buildings. It's a huge property, one of them being Collingwood. So it'll be nice that I kind of get to travel up to those places. I'm a big fan of Blue Mountain, and now I'm responsible for doing energy efficient upgrades, with that being one of the regions I'm working in. And honestly, at this point, I can't say there's much I don't like about the role. It's been fantastic, and this job has just been a blessing for me. My previous job, like I was saying, working at Light & Co, it was good, no complaints there. But I knew it wasn't exactly getting me where I needed to be. We're now working for the county. It's really allowed me just to take life by the reins and choose the direction I want to go in, and it just feels good to be part of something that's forever evolving. So it's very exciting to be part of all that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kyle. Glad things are working out for you.
Thank you.
Scott?
Thanks. Seems to be a common theme, but I guess like everyone else is saying, so I work on a lot of different projects as well. Our company does Eastern Canada and Eastern Ontario. So I get to work on places like St. John's, Halifax. We do a lot of projects in Kingston as well as Ottawa here. So it gives a nice variety and keeps you interested. One of the least things I liked about my role, which is now eliminated, was driving to the office, which I don't think anybody likes. That was annoying, but now that COVID's there, we transitioned pretty easily to working from home and allowed a way better work-life balance now and more time at home with my girlfriend. So yeah, there's not really too much things I don't like about my current role right now. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I realized I forgot last section. So for this section, Devin, did we have any questions in chat?
Nope, chat's all clear. We can go ahead to the next question.
Awesome, thank you so much. Right. So how has your career been affected by the changing employment landscape? I know a couple of you have already touched on this in terms of both COVID and the aging population, but has the gig economy affected you at all? Leanna?
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of COVID related things with this question, but I mean, the Yukon is pretty small and isolated by like every means, I guess. So we've been pretty lucky in terms of COVID impacts here. So things have not changed too much in the past year. We had a bit of uncertainty at the beginning of the pandemic about government spending and whether contracts were going to get canceled for 2020, but everything kind of ended up working out, and we've actually been really busy this past year. I mean, like, kind of can expect whenever there's some sort of blip in the economy, government spending usually is one of the solutions. So yeah, we've had lots of projects to work on, and things have not changed for me too much. I still come into the office every day. I live about 30 minutes outside of Whitehorse in like a 300 square foot cabin. So spending all day, every day in my cabin with my very bad internet would not be fun for me. So I elected, and most of my coworkers have elected, to keep coming into the office throughout the pandemic. And then we've just been kind of mindful of COVID rules, and we're below the Yukon's gathering limits. There's only 8 of us, so we're able to still come in to work and kind of have our little bubble that we stick with for like, yeah, limiting COVID contact, I guess. But your question about kind of like gig economy and how that kind of stuff might influence things, I don't think it's changed much for the consulting engineering industry, especially like associate engineering. We're a pretty traditional structured company. People are working from home now across the company, so that's kind of changed, proving that people can work from anywhere, for at least for the design phase of projects. But things have kind of stayed the same for the past year. And like, I mean, I have a permanent position here, so I don't work a gig kind of job. So I mean, I'm pretty steady here. I know that I'll be working at least 40 hours a week. I could work more, especially in the summertime. Things get kind of bonkers here, so I could be working as much as I wanted to in the summer. So sometimes, I guess, like some of the people were mentioning, there's too much work to do. So we end up bringing people from other areas of the company that are slower. So I mean, if people in Saskatchewan, for example, have closed off a big project and there's some free staff there, we'll bring them up to the Yukon for the summertime. So people kind of move around where the work is in our company, but it's pretty steady, which is really nice. And yeah, definitely helps feel like steady in my job. And I'm building a house right now, so it's nice to have some steady employment. I've got enough kind of variables and stressors in my life that having to not worry about my job is great.
I imagine so, yes. Callie?
Things for me haven't changed too much, but like I started a new role right as the pandemic started. So was kind of learning my role from home. So it's been about a year since we were sent home from work to work from home. And if I'm doing computer work, then yeah, it's totally different. Like I'm in the comfort of my own home, but wouldn't say it's affecting the quality of work. If I'm working in the field, now there's different things to consider. Like we have to consider the health and safety protocol of the contractors and what the province wants us to abide by. So socially distancing, I can't like go too close to the workers, like people have to wear masks, that kind of thing. And it's a whole discussion that we have to have at pre-start meetings now to make sure everyone's on the same page as the contractors' health and safety standards. Something different now that we have to consider when we're doing our estimating is COVID pricing. Like it's not the same. Contractors have to build that into their prices, like they have to send each worker in a separate vehicle. That's cost to the contractor. So it's kind of looking at things at a different angle now, like where we didn't really have to worry about those things before, like the extra prices because of COVID, and implementing the health and safety standards. But yeah, like I said, otherwise it's business as usual. It's just been a bit of a challenge learning this role from home, because normally I could just walk right up to someone in their cubicle and be like, hey, give me the answer to this question, or like, help me work through this. And now all of that expertise is either not picking up their phone because they're busy, or I have to wait for a response on an email. And typically in my position right now, you're looking for quick answers. So it's been a challenge because, you're kind of left to figure it out on your own sometimes, which can be beneficial as well.
Fair enough. And your point about COVID pricing is not something that really was considered. So thank you. Mike?
Thank you. Things haven't really changed for me from my entrance into this industry. When you work on the wind turbines, you always work in partners just for safety. So as opposed to having a different partner every once in a while, I stay now with the single partner to kind of create a bubble. So that would be the biggest difference, is I see the same person day in, day out, as opposed to a few different people a week. Also too, I'm very fortunate. These turbines, as I mentioned before, are in very remote locations, and the only people that go in them are the technicians. So I feel very safe when I'm at work from a COVID standpoint. I trust the person that I work with. We both very limit our contact and everything. So nothing has changed for me. And obviously working on a wind turbine, I have to be at the wind turbine. So I'm not able to work from home or anything like that. So as far as like a gig economy goes and whatnot that you mentioned before, and admittedly I had to Google what gig economy was. But that doesn't really affect my particular side of the industry. I find in service, there's a lot of room to be at the position for a very long time if you'd like to. as long as you're, pleasing your employer, you're gonna be there and be able to ascend through the ranks and kind of go through different levels of being a technician. So as far as the changing landscape, I haven't seen too much since I started working, and it's been very day in, day out, much like it was when I first started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Kyle?
So my response here is going to be pretty short. As I've mentioned, I've only been working for about 7 to 8 weeks. So I was hired during COVID times. Not that I know this is where the question is exactly geared towards, but I just started working from home and I continue to work from home. So the employment landscape has not changed for me. Once we kind of start transitioning out of COVID times, that's when I guess, see a change. But working in the public sector, your job's always pretty secured unless you screw up really badly. So that being said, can't really comment too much on this question, but the employment, I've been unaffected by the current employment landscape.
Fair enough, and I'm glad you haven't been badly affected by it. Scott?
Yeah, so our company is worldwide. There's about 50,000 employees, but in our Ottawa office, we have about 50 people. So when COVID hit, we did have to change a few things. Obviously, everybody started working from home, but luckily we were already kind of switching into a digital kind of role. So it was a fairly seamless transition for us, luckily. Our instrumentation group is about 4 people. So we're still a fairly small knit group, and we have weekly chats. We keep up in touch with everybody to make sure everyone's still keeping busy. From the business side, we do water and wastewater projects primarily. So the business continued as normal. The water projects were still going. But it was just all the meetings, kind of everything went virtual, and going to construction sites changed. You had to get approvals and make sure you're protected. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm glad no one's been too negatively impacted by COVID in terms of how it's affected their work. Devin, are there any questions in chat?
Yeah, I see one from Dr. Enoch here. I think we will field it until, we'll field it at the Q&A session. So we'll just continue on with the next question we have planned.
Sounds good. Some of you have already somewhat touched on this, but is your job location dependent, for instance, with the wind turbines, or can you work from anywhere? Leanna?
Thanks. Yeah, so I think that I'd probably say that my job is about 50% location dependent. So during the construction season, you obviously need to be where the construction is happening, and we don't get to choose that. So in the summertime, we do a fair bit of kind of traveling around. You might be dedicated to one project for the whole summer, or in my case, I tend to jump around when people take leave. And so I end up working kind of in a variety of locations throughout the summer, sometimes in Whitehorse, and then I travel kind of throughout the Yukon to fill in like for 2-week rotations while the full-time inspectors are on their days off. So that part is location dependent. And I really like that because I've gotten to see some neat parts of the Yukon and have some interesting experiences through work, which is really neat, especially being like still pretty new to the territory. And I appreciate that I've been able to work in some pretty beautiful locations. I spent about several times the first summer that I was here doing 2-week rotations in Haines Junction, Yukon, which is where Kluane National Park is located. So I was working on a municipal infrastructure replacement project, but like in the foothills of a beautiful mountain range. So coming from Kingston, that's why I moved here, was for like mountains and mountain related adventures and all that lifestyle kind of stuff. So that was like a dream come true for me, was to be watching pipe install while seeing mountains in the background. So that was pretty amazing. But the rest of the time, I am working in the office. So realistically, I could do that work from wherever I want to if I had stable internet connection. I do a lot of work with Civil 3D, so that requires pretty good internet and connection to our server. So a lot of our employees throughout the company have been working remotely throughout the pandemic, especially in kind of the more bigger centers like Calgary and Vancouver and Edmonton. Those people haven't been back in the office in quite a while. So I could work from anywhere. I just, like I said, I choose not to because Whitehorse, well, I guess like Yukon internet, Northern internet in general is known to be terrible. So we have awful internet at my cabin. So working in the office is kind of essential, but hopefully someday, maybe next year, once COVID stuff changes, I'll be able to spend some time back in Kingston and kind of work from home there. I haven't seen my family in like a year and a half now, so I'm hoping to be able to go home at some point and work from home to be able to do a kind of longer stay back in Kingston. But yeah, that's about it for that question. Kind of make it what you want to be in terms of whether you work in the office or not, and lots of different opportunities for travel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Callie?
So my job is similar to Leanna. I have a pretty large area that I am in charge of like maintaining really. So from about Odessa all the way to Quebec border, to about Ottawa in certain sections of specific highways. So like I have to do a lot of field review and a lot of inspection and contract administration for my project. So for the work that I'm doing in the field, I do have to be within driving distance, and all of that is about 2.5 hours from me. So as long as I was living close, like within that area, I could still do this job from a different location, but I couldn't move to, like, say, Toronto and work in the area that I'm working. For my office stuff, I can certainly work from wherever, but it's a combination. So I am sort of glued to a certain driving distance of the area that I'm currently working in.
Thank you very much. Mike?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, service is quite location dependent, but that being said, I don't necessarily stay just exactly in the Kincardine area. Our office is responsible for servicing turbines about an hour and a half south, as well as Manitoulin Island, which is about a 6-hour drive away. We have 4 turbines on Manitoulin Island. So that's kind of what it is specifically for service, but outside of that, in the wind energy career field, you can find yourself in the exact opposite, which would be travel technicians is a very robust job opportunity. There's, I'd say, maybe half the jobs in the wind industry are for travel technicians, people who go from new build to new build, putting these turbines up and commissioning them. For example, I was contacted recently about a job in Alberta commissioning Siemens wind turbines. But as I mentioned before, I picked service because I wanted to be in a more specific location. So being location dependent is the reason why I picked service, and one of the things that I do enjoy about it. Yeah, so it can be both.
Cool. Good to know. Thank you for sharing. Kyle?
So as of right now, like I said, I do work from home. But that being said, there will be a point in time where we do move back to the office in Midhurst, but it is going to be very much so hybrid for at least a foreseeable future. So just our office is pretty big. Like I think it houses like 300 employees or so. So I think the idea is to kind of do rotations just so we're not all in there at the same time. And I guess if there were to be COVID going around, it's not like we're all going to be affected. It's only going to be half the people affected, which still sucks, but it's obviously better than the whole ship going down. But once everyone's been vaccinated and kind of that plays a bigger role, we for sure are going to be returning to the office full time. I know it's very strange for public sector to even be away for any amount of time. Like, I know my boss was saying to me that they shut down the stretch of highway that we're located on for 2 days because of a winter storm, and that was like unheard of. So by being off, we've been off for a year now, and no one would have even imagined that was possible, because obviously, like, we're kind of working in the government sector. People kind of like to know where their taxes are going to. Not that every single individual does their job from home properly, but I guess when you're in the office, it's you can be held more accountable to a degree. Yeah, that being said, we're going to be doing a hybrid position of working at home, and then the next week we'll probably be working in the office. But it will come to a time where we are in the office full time.
Thank you very much. Scott?
Yeah, before COVID happened, we were a lot more location dependent. We had to do a lot more site inspections and factory inspections. So we'd be flying out to Toronto or Halifax or Newfoundland or driving down to Kingston. But since COVID happened, that's really slowed things down. We don't travel as much anymore. It did at the beginning of the pandemic, it did allow people to work more remotely. But once the summer is obviously starting to get warmer here and start up, the construction season will start back up, and we'll be expected to be on site a lot more. And right now we're primarily just in Ottawa. So yeah, ours is location dependent at the moment. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, all of you. And this actually was our last question. So rather than seeing if there's any for this section, we'll just go to the Q&A period. Devin, if you'd like to handle any questions that have shown up in chat and possibly launch the poll.
Yeah,
we do have
absolutely.
a poll for everybody to fill out. It should only take a second, and we'll go through the questions as we go.
So I'll just launch the poll now. All right. So a question from Dr. Enoch. What are you doing to continuously educate yourself to keep up to date? So let's not put Leanna on the spot here because she's been first all the time. If anyone wants to jump in and go first, feel free.
Sure, I don't mind speaking to that. I would say that as MTO being my employer, they're like really awesome about consistently giving us training that's super relevant to the work we are doing. So even next week, I am in a full week's worth of training. It goes 8:30 to 4:30 every day. So it is on critical structural issues during construction. So it's going to be super relevant for things that I have to look for in the field as an inspector and a contract administrator, and even for planning processes of doing design. So there's a lot of training opportunities at MTO, and I find that they're really good about putting us in this training, and it's actually very, very heavily engineering related. It's not just like, oh, there's a crack. It's like, what is the deeper meaning behind this crack and behind these bearings? So I find that it's super awesome.
That's great. Thank you, Callie.
I can go next if you'd like.
Certainly.
I guess for our company, we're a larger company. Like I said, we have 50,000 people. So we do have access to a bit more resources, which is nice. So there's constantly training going on with, we have various companies that'll come and offer to put on sessions to show us off the latest technologies that they've come out with to make sure that we're familiar with them. So they're basically hoping we're able to put them in some of these projects. And yeah, for the professional side as well, our company will pay for all your professional, I guess, groups like OACETT, or if you end up getting your PEng, they'll pay for that as well. So as long as you're going towards something that's benefiting you and the company, then it's all good. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks, Scott.
I can speak as well if you'd like. I found the same as what you guys have been mentioning, is the company's rather large and happy to invest in its employees. So I constantly get a lot of training as well. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I was slated to go to Germany to learn generator repair, which would be just specific to the actual generator, the main component on the wind turbine. Also too, this is an ever evolving industry, with offshore wind being a new thing that's kind of coming out as one of the major forces driving this industry into change, as well as larger turbines with higher output. There's constantly new models being produced by my company, and it's very interesting to learn all the new systems and all the new changes that they also implement in the older turbines to create efficiencies. So that's quite interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, so for kind of professional development stuff at Associated, we tend to learn a lot from each other. I mean, Associated has, I mean, we like to think of ourselves as kind of big, but we're about 1,000 people across all of our offices. So kind of in that intermediate between like kind of local engineering companies and like Stantec or one of the WSP, something ginormous. But we have a lot of really smart people in our company with really interesting specialties. So we do a lot of kind of peer learning stuff. So there's they've set up, they call them DIGs, but a discipline interest group for different engineering specialties. So I'm a member of a couple of those, one of them for like municipal infrastructure, and then one of them for asset management. So we do lunch and learns and different presentations and stuff like that through those groups. And then in terms of more formal learning opportunities, I'm the local safety coordinator. So I've done a lot of courses with our kind of safety training company in town to do safety auditing and programming. And then, like Scott was saying, Associated will also pay for professional memberships. So I'm still in the process of doing my OACETT certification. Yukon does not have any kind of organization or association for engineering technicians or technologists. So I decided to stick with Ontario and just be a kind of remote member to get certified through OACETT. So AE will pay for that kind of stuff and really encourages people to take ownership of their careers. And like I was saying at the beginning, for me, that's kind of another tool in the personal advocacy kind of toolbox that getting certified and working towards kind of professional recognition is important for me to feel like I can advance in my career as kind of the minority career group here in the office, being a technologist in a room of our engineers. But yeah, lots of different opportunities, and it's nice to work for a company that's supportive of you kind of chasing your own dreams. They have money set aside for training and whatnot. So if you find something that's interesting and relevant and like legit, then the company will normally pay for that kind of stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, thank you, Leanna.
Yeah, I was going to say for myself, with my current role, we haven't really had time to offer any designations or anything of that sort. With my last company, Light & Co., some of the training that they provided was actually right before we went into the state of lockdown. I was in Toronto attending the CEM course, Certified Energy Manager, through the Association of Energy Engineers. So thankfully, my old company paid for that training. I did it's 5 days, and then you do a test at the end. So I wrote that, passed the test. So I received my designation as energy manager in training. Being a technologist, you need 5 years of experience in Ontario to become a full certified energy manager. So basically now I'm still banking time to get that full designation. But once I do get my full 5 years, I just apply to get the CEM designation. And if my work is relatable to what they're looking for, which it is, to my knowledge, then I'll just be bumped up to that CEM designation. Also on my own, I had written my test through OACETT. So I became a certified technician by doing, I believe it's called the PPE. It's an exam kind of based on their organization, law, and ethics. And once you pass that, you have the opportunity to write a technology report so you can get your CET. So I went down that road, did my report, and I think in November of last year, I was granted my full designation as a certified engineering technologist through OACETT. I have my eyes on getting my lead GA. I think it's a great designation to get, and I know my current job does support continuing education, so I'm hoping to take the lead GA course and successfully pass that.
That's great. Thanks, Kyle, and congratulations on CET.
Thank you.
So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or just unmute yourself, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we're gonna plan on wrapping this up.
Thank you, Devin. I'll let folks have another moment or two to type in chat. While we see if there are any other questions, I would like to thank all of our speakers. You've all been wonderful. And I'd also like to share the poll results just in case anyone is interested. It seems like most people did find this a valuable speaker series or NEM event, so I put that down to you 5. You did a wonderful job answering all of the questions, so thank you so much. And I'd also like to thank NEM, who is the host organization for this event, as well as their partners who you can see on our screen. Devin, if chat's all clear, then I believe that would be the end of the event.
Yep, chat's all clear. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually hoping to add one comment before we left the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I was mentioning in one of the previous questions, I have been promoted to supervisor role within the county of Simcoe. So we will be hiring for an analyst position. So if anyone is interested sometime in the near future, if you visit the countyofsimcoe.ca, I believe, there will be a job posting for the Sustainable Operations Program Analyst. And submit your resume, and we'll be looking to bring someone on.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you much for sharing. Does anyone else have any other comments to add before we end the event? Then thank you all for coming and have a great night.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.